Yeah, I'm really sorry to appear twice on one day, but I could not do differently because we are looking for planets with a Corot satellite, and this week we have announced the first terrestrial planet in Barcelona, so I only could come on very short notice. So this is more the measurement section, as I understood it. So I gave an overview over how many stars before, and here I wanted to speak a little bit about the light meter, what it more technically does. You know these maps now, but the question is the view from below. So we started the measurements and development of the devices that do it fully automatically, and they measure the illumination. Yeah, you have heard about what is emitted from the sky. The principle here is the illumination, so to look how bright it is and how much a solar cell captures. If you like, you can directly compare it to the measurements of how much energy you generate from the sun, and here you measure how much energy you generate from the light pollution. So this is typical. This is Berlin again. So just to give you the flavor of how strong things vary. We have heard in the previous talk that extreme values are also interesting for politicians and as an environmental factor. And the idea of the light meter is really to bridge astronomical use to environmental use. So it's supposed to give also an answer to the question to how much light have people living in a particular area being exposed if they would stay outside. So briefly, a characterization of the light meter. This is the first series from last year, and it uses a silicon solar cell and a USB connection, and has a very large measurement range, but only the astronomical range from the full moon down is linear. You just heard a few remarks about linearity, but we kept the upper part in a non-linear way to be able to connect to the sun and to compare, for example, things like the change of cloud coverage, because clouds passing by absorb solar light, but of course also starlight. So we can learn from the better known daylight cloud pattern for the night cloud pattern. So the new one, was now possible because we had sufficient requests. The new one has extra features, and in particular there is a separate sensor with two extra channels for the daylight part, so that goes from one lux upward. So you have a kind of reference to straighten out the nonlinear part of the main sensor with the help of these extra sensors. And the manufacturer also provides a calibration for that to true lux values. So the other thing we did for this new series is to select the solar cells and ask the manufacturer to do some things in the manufacturing that make it better suited for our purpose. So the result of that, I'm very proud that with the new series, I think the detection limit will be a few microlux. So if one uses an appropriate setup, one can measure a single star. So that was measurements in Jena, and then nearby in Tautenburg. So it's typically kept on a roof, and you have trees around and everything, so it sees most of the sky, but not all the sky. That's 1 year of measurements displayed in a particular way. So you have the days on one axis, and on the other axis the night. So you see there are long nights in winter, which are dark, and there are short nights in summer, in the middle part of the figure. So it's continuous monitoring, so you get summaries of the illumination over the year. So how does a single measurement look like? That's a measure from Tautenburg. Of course, I picked a very clear night, and you see two things. First, you see the straight magenta line. That is again the full moon, and then you see that here the light flattens off. That's in part because of the behavior is non-linear, so the sun would go up like that. You will see it in a second, but the light meter flattens off because it's in the non-linear domain. And then here's the evening twilight. So it becomes dark, and then it's not getting very dark because it's aligned with the moon. Then the moon goes down, it goes darker again. Here's the morning twilight, goes up, becoming brighter, up to the moon brightness, and then going into the nonlinear domain. So that's the basic pattern. And now, how to calibrate the sensor? If once you get the counts out of the instrument, so you have to calibrate it to get the lux values or whatever you like to calibrate to. So the simplest way is to do a simultaneous measurement with a calibrated instrument, a master light meter or whatever. What I use now, and is fast and works really good, is using the sun and twilight, because sun and twilight you have every day. For the moon you have to wait sometimes. Second, the next choice is the moon, and if you want to have a really rough and quick calibration, you use the daylight sensor that you can convert directly into the lux and from then connect to the main sensor. So that's the idea. So I can show you a little bit how this works. This is now this time here, and the lux values up, and the blue one is measurements with the daylight channel, and the red ones are with the conventional 100 euro cheap handheld lux meter. So see how this works. This is the true lux meter, and this is the other. The blue one is the calibrated daylight channel of the new series. So this now puts all the sensor channels together and also wants to show you how different instruments behave. Here's again the line of the full moon in zenith. And here you have as a reference, that's the true moon on this day here. And the thin magenta line here is the sun and the twilight. And because this is in Jena and this is also far north, it's a summer night, so it stays really bright because of the twilight for long. And now you see the following things plotted. This one, the thick green spot, is the daylight sensor that you get in the new channel. So you see how this is a theoretical sun here and how the daylight sensor follows. And then you have one light meter starting here. So here's in the nonlinear part. So this has to be moved up by a nonlinear calibration, and then it moves into the linear part and goes down here into the night part. And here's the blue one, which is another light meter, which is slightly different in sensitivity. This is actually one from the new series. So you see it's in the linear part and then joins into the daylight sensor and then goes down together with the other one. Yeah? And then you see here in the night, it's measuring in a city. And if you measure in a city, you have to take care of a few effects. First of all, here the switch of a main source is it's a big light on the large tower in Jena. So that's seen in both light meters. And you see the light meters react differently. And in that case, it just happens that they stay side by side, just a half a meter separated, but one is in a different shadow than the other one. So they react differently on these relatively low lying sources. That's two nights. Here you have some cloud, so you see how bad weather looks like. Here you see only again the switch off. But you see this pattern repeats nicely, and you can here use in the twilight, you can use it very nicely to get a quick calibration. And you see in this case in Jena, the moon, the blue one here is the true moon in a model, but it's pretty accurate. Then you see that in Jena, for this purpose, you cannot use the moon because it's just not bright enough on this day. The city adds on top on it, so you cannot use the moon for calibration as the sun. That is some detail about the daylight sensor that is built in now. You have here this is again the full moon reference line. This is the main sensor. And then you see there are two lines for the daylight sensor, and that is because to construct the lux value, the manufacturer uses two channels. One is a visual and one is a near-infrared channel. And you find those two channels put out into your light meter recordings. And from these two channels, they are combined to get the lux values. And actually, you see the visual channel goes down a little bit farther. Yeah? It's actually the near-infrared channel that is limited by the higher value. So the daylight, if you want to go down a little bit deeper with the daylight, then you only use the visual daylight sensor channel and forget the correction with the infrared. Of course, then you don't have the exact lux values. So it's another example of the nonlinearity. You see in this case, the sensor becomes nonlinear even below the full moon. So that's I add as caution that because we have selected the cells now, they have become typically like a factor 4 more sensitive. So now we are a little bit getting nonlinear for the moon. If you are bothered with this, you can stop the light meter by, I'd hesitate to say it, by spraying it with something, or put it under a filter to don't get into the extra effort to deal with the nonlinear part. So you can put it in a box and it's still sensitive enough to do everything. And that's another, you see, there's in this part you see some strange things here. And this happened to be in the night of the Perseids, and these are all Perseids here through clouds, measured with 2. So there's it's an old from last year, and the blue one is the new this year's version. Yeah. So I want to briefly say about the state of the Austrian network. That's the list that we have running at the moment. And so show my quantum of solace again, Paranal. I wanted maybe to point out again, I've shown this before, but point out again, if you now ask yourself how well you can represent the model, how well the model is represented by the measurements, and you look at the residues here for these nights with moon and the twilight, and you get easily below 5%. So it's the modeling is really good and can be a current reference, and also the instrument seems to be pretty good also for the entire range. Once again, I like it so much I have to show it again. Here's the full moon, factor 10, factor 100, factor 1000, and then you see the distribution here. So it looks like a theoretical distribution. So now, Linz, I've shown this a little bit, so again, here the full moon. And then what has been said in the previous talks is emphasized here, because this is run over 1 month, and you see that the distributions in Linz, they are double peaked. Yeah? You have a distribution here at about 10 times above the natural sky brightness, and here one is maybe 40, 50, 60 times above the natural sky brightness, and then the moon. And this is certainly a mixture of light pollution with weather. So different weather conditions lead to different peaks there. But astronomically, the weather, of course, we want to avoid it. But for the environmental issue, it's an important thing. So it's important to record it. So what I have done here is I select, here's again the distribution for Linz, all measurements taken in May, and then I select in various ways what is an astronomically dark situation. So no sun, no moon. Various selections for the moon, because I've discovered there's also a lunar twilight. I mean, it's obvious, but I have been reminded by the measurements. So you see, this is the distributions in astronomically dark time. Yeah? So this must be a weather effect here. So Linz is again another 1/3 of the full moon in zenith result. So are the nights going to become brighter? And then in the spirit of the year of astronomy, I have here 1609. And for 1609, I, of course, took these average values from Paranal, which is 1 millilux. And then some values from the year of astronomy. The best one I got was 1.4 lux from measurements in Paris. And this is really a different regime, because if it's full moon, there was a night with full moon. And then if you have overcast and cloud, and the clouds open, and the full moon comes out, the night gets darker. It's really something different. That's typically for the Kufner, 0.6, and 0.1 lux for in Linz, 200,000 inhabitants. So, and one thing you can do, and that I did on a day with the environmental representatives of the country of Upper Austria, you can do the measurement. So you get the measurements here, and then I like to convert it from lux into watts per square meter. That's the direct measurement of the solar cell, actually. And then you have, like, if you look at Linz with a light meter for 10 hours a night, then you get about this watt hours per square meter per year, and then you have the size of the city you look in, so you have 4 times 4 kilometers. You multiply the measurement that you get directly from the light meter with the area of the city, then you get 64 megawatt hours per year, and you know what a megawatt hour costs, and then you get directly a sum of 50 kilo euros per year that you harvest from the sky by reflection. Yeah? So, of course, that's only a lower limit.
You have to have a solar thing of the supervision of the whole town then.
Yeah. If you want to harvest it, but that's the money that is in the sky and coming back. Yeah? There's even more money, of course, going out. So I like the units. It's just to inspire.
You need a lot of your instruments then.
If you want to get it back, yeah. But we should try not to touch this issue, because then they say, why bother about light pollution? We get the money back. So, okay, that's one of the many surprises I wanted to show you. This is a night in Linz, and you see it's a bad weather, and it's a light where they switched off, a night where they switched off a lot, and it's bad weather. So you see the measurement is below the theoretical sun. Here's the theoretical sun with the theoretical twilight. But you see with thunderstorms, it was already before a little bit of twilight. And then you see something going around here, and then you see these spikes in Linz. Yeah? And this is because it's a steel city, and they move out the ashes from the steel cooking out of the place and put it into something like a swimming pool. So they have 3,000 K hot stuff sitting there and radiating to the sky. And this makes these spikes in Linz every 40 or so hours. And then the blue ones here, this is what I wanted to show you. It's switching off lights in Linz on the main square. So this is the Kepler Observatory here, the black one. The blue one is on the top of the city hall tower. And you see the switch off, and that leads me to 2 things I want to give you to think about, because I have not found a solution. One thing is they made the switch off here, so you see all kinds of variation from the clouds, and then they switched off the light somewhere. Yeah? You see all the variation from the clouds, and they switched on the light somewhere. And actually, that is where they switched the light off. This tiny little step is the switch off. So it's very, very tiny what effect was there. Yeah? So it's interesting that you switch off a fraction of the light, and the effect is minuscule. I'll show you a second example to the end. Yeah? And now, how many minutes do I have? Okay, good. Don't worry. And this is similar. This is simultaneous. This is from the measurement network as an example. That's the same night in Jena, in Tautenburg. The same night in Tautenburg and in Berlin. Red is Berlin. And the black is Tautenburg, and the tin is the moon again here. Yeah? And you see, if you take this night, for example, yeah, you have in Berlin 0.045 lux, and in Tautenburg you go to the millilux level. So in this case, the clouds in Berlin make it about a fraction of the full moon's brightness. In Tautenburg, the clouds make the side darker, yeah? But this depends on the cloud cover. But that's the kind of things you can see with the network. The minutes?
I think you're probably going to raise some questions, so if you could wrap up then.
Okay. I want to show 2 things. First, the variations in the various sites. You have seen this before. Multiple peak things depending on which conditions, whether aerosols are there. Tautenburg, again the Paranal. And this is the comparison, so you get a characteristic distribution of the measurements for every site. And I think we should start to talk in terms of these distributions. It's a mixture of the environmental conditions and the sky state. And I close with a riddle. This is the same event, I think, that Zoltan has already referred to. There was in February very cold conditions and a lot of snow, and that's downtown Vienna. And so we wanted to make an experiment, so we looked for a way to find out how much of the city is covered. Yeah? And that was the answer. You see the balloon here, so it's a camera with a balloon. And then you go up and you look how bright is the city. Yeah? And essentially what you see is that the roofs are white and everything. What is remained is only the streets remain black. And then we needed higher coverage, so that's from a helicopter. So I just showed this to convince you the city is really white. The albedo is as high as I think it's going to get. The only black thing are trees. That's towards the observatory. And now I want to show you this, and this is what I want to finish because this gave me a lot of thought. This is the switch off of the Viennese lights, 100,000 points of lights. Half of these are dimmed at a certain time in the night. And this is the effect with full snow on. So you have this is the variation because of overcast and so on. This is the switch off, and it's going on. And with this condition, everything covered in white, the effect is only 5% or so. And I was really surprised by that. I don't understand it, and I would really like to have your ideas of why that is the case. Because you know the number of lights you shut off. It's the main road illumination in Vienna. You switch off half, and the effect on the sky brightness is only a few percent. We have checked back with a number of ways, so the result is really solid. So dimming half the light is only 5% of the sky. It's somehow related to Solton's result, but even worse, I think. So where's the light coming from? Thanks.
The brightest ones that aren't turned off. Surely that's presumptive of all the lights being the same brightness.
Yeah, they are the same. They are the same way they are built. It's most of these lights are of this building type. Huh?
And all kind of streets?
All kind of streets.
You said yourself the roads were the things that were black, and the lights are shining down on the roads. And that would presumably be some scatter into the surrounding areas that still have snow on them, but most of the light is directed onto the road, and the road is not covered with snow. Then that would
Very well directed light. It's the answer that they have really very well directed light over to the roads. Most light is going to the road.
Well, 40% of the town is offices, or quite another kind of light.
Nobody knows. Nobody knows. My impression is there is this issue about the roads, but actually the sidewalks are not. The sidewalks are covered with snow. Yeah, this can all be the same.
Is there any chance that you've had a problem? I think Bez is working on it. I know I did one observation, and in the local area there was a power cut, and you could see quite clearly it dropped. So it dropped about 0.3 mags in sky brightness. You don't, I guess, Vienna's got a better power. Direction, and I guess also the question of like offices, which are, you've got tall buildings and the light's coming out horizontally anyway. With that, that's it. Again, very nice piece of work. I think we should applaud that and encourage.